Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back to own my picks for UFC 315. 2 title fights, right? One champ retains, the other does not. I'll break it all down, but let's start out the bottom of the card. And it was Kyle Preple versus Benoît Saint-Denis. When I did the breakdown, I'd forgotten that Preple had a previous run in the UFC. Lost to Nordine Taleb and somebody else. 0-2. Not a run that's worth mentioning. That's why I'd forgotten it. But anyway, but still, I would have stuck by my pick either way. It doesn't matter. I picked Benoît Saint-Denis. I said go by early submission if you can get money on that, and that's exactly what happened. Early in round number 2, he gets the midway through round number 2, he gets the arm triangle choke. One of the keys when you look at a fight, whatever somebody's good at, whatever their thing is, if it works immediately, you got a long night in front of you. Because at least part of your training camp, for a guy like Benoît Saint-Denis, his ace in the hole, he's got a good submission game, stop the takedown, and work from there. And his first double leg, pretty simple double leg, took Preple right to the ground. He went for this Kimura trap position that's not going to work on Benoît Saint-Denis or anybody decent. If you're taken down that easily by somebody where your whole camp would be stop the takedown, don't let him take you down, and get that submission game going, I don't know what else to tell you. If someone's known for the left hook and they throw a blind left hook with no setup at all and it hits you right in the face, you're doing something wrong. A lot of your camp should have been about protecting against the left hook. So obviously, a great fighter is going to make their best thing a factor in the fight if they possibly can, but make them work for it. All right, don't fall for the first takedown when it's a simple double leg and lets the submission game get going. And then from there, Benoît Saint-Denis just handled him, beat him up, went for a ton of submissions, couldn't get it in round number 1. Wash, rinse, repeat. Same thing in round number 2 until he fell for an arm triangle choke. Preple is not UFC level. Benoît Saint-Denis, we don't know how far he can go. I think there is kind of a ceiling on the guy, but he's certainly UFC level. And that disparity showed from the beginning. So, easy win. I'm 1-0. Didn't have to be a genius. He was like a minus 1,000 favorite. So, anyway, Benoît Saint-Denis defeats Kyle Preple by submission. Natalia Silva versus Alexa Grasso. I picked Alexa Grasso because the odds, I think, were like 2.5 to 1. For Natalia Silva, and I thought, well, Alexa Grasso, a former champion, maybe she's able to make this the kind of fight that favors an experienced fighter who's been there before. And Natalia Silva, she's very, very talented, hasn't fought a ton of great names. Also, she's not a finisher. Maybe Alexa Grasso is able to get in there and get something done. Nope. Grasso looked from the beginning off. She looked a little gun shy. She looked a little unsure of herself. And Natalia Silva is one of those fighters you can't look that way. You got to put her on her heels and be the more experienced fighter and remind her that as talented as she is, she hasn't been in a ton of great fights, and Grasso didn't do that at all. So the result is she ended up at the distance that suited Natalia Silva the entire time. She has a monster left hook, very explosive, that in and out motion, so bang, 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 and then out again. The kind of things that a young, gifted fighter is good at. Explosive, accurate striking at range. And Alexa Grasso was never able to make it about anything else, right? The kind of fight, and we'll talk about the Shevchenko fight later, that favors a more experienced fighter who's maybe a little more well-rounded, who's been through a bit more. None of that. This was how explosive and athletic can you be? And Silva's always going to win that battle. She's going to win it against just about everyone. So Alexa Grasso kind of stuck in second gear the whole time and just got ranged and destroyed. She was fighting a younger, more explosive, better version of herself. And I think a sharper striker as well. So Natalia Silva just walking over Alexa Grasso. Easy, unanimous decision. So that's the first time I'm off, so I'm 1-1. Aman Zahabi versus Jose Aldo. This is going to take some time because this was the first real interesting fight on the card. What I mean by that is watching Jose Aldo since, obviously the Max Holloway losses, the Volk loss or whatever, is kind of frustrating because he drops down to 135 and has a decent run and is a contender at 135. And you see flashes of the old Jose Aldo, but they're like he'll throw a combination, boom, 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 and you go, oh, the old Jose Aldo would throw that combination with 6 or 7 more strikes in it, throw in some leg kicks, take a breath and do the same thing again. Now he's only capable of spurts of really explosive, accurate striking. And so it's so weird to watch him because he isn't the Jose Aldo of old. He's maybe 70% of that guy. But you see how 70% of that guy is still a really good 135-pounder. So the thing about this fight is I thought Jose Aldo won. I picked Amon because I thought, well, because once again, the odds really favored Jose Aldo. And at this age, with all he's been through, heavy odds on someone who's been through as much as Jose Aldo, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I went with the odds. But I did think he won the first 2 rounds. But it was his inability to sustain his offense, where he would boom, boom, land a good shot, and then he would let Zahabi back into the fight because he couldn't really sustain that pace. His leg kicks were virtually non-existent, which were a huge part of his offense early in the fight, or early in his career. And I've heard that he had a motorcycle accident in Brazil, and that has really affected his ability to throw leg kicks. I don't know about the truth of that. I'm just saying, wow, he just suddenly stopped doing it, even when he was at 145 pounds. So his leg kicks were a non-factor. And so, Zahabi was able to kind of get back into the fight in a way that Jose Aldo would not have allowed earlier in his career. So, once again, landed some good combinations. Clinches were strangely controlled by Zahabi when there was at a time when once he got the plum, you were in deep, because he had incredible Muay Thai, great knees, great clinch. I don't really have that as much anymore. So it's frustrating watching Jose Aldo because he's 70% of the guy he used to be, and it's frustrating to see, God, man, that 30% was really awesome. So he loses by unanimous decision, announces his retirement. I completely get it, but Jose Aldo had a really weird career trajectory where you've heard me talk on this channel a lot about fighters who have been through a lot, which Jose Aldo's been through a ton of wars from the beginning. He's explosive, he's athletic. Fighters like that tend to go, boom. They tend to go right off a cliff at a certain point. And with the 2 Max Holloway losses, although he was competitive in those fights, I thought, okay, those beatings are tough. He's probably going off a cliff. Then he loses to Volk, and you went, okay, here we go. Goes down to 35 and has a decent run. This idea of a great fighter losing 20, 30% of what he has and still being pretty good and having some decent fights is kind of rare. Because usually the steep is just so, the drop is so steep, right, that you don't have that, kind of renaissance run at the end where maybe you could fight for a title again. Happens a couple times, but not that often, especially a guy, once again, like Jose Aldo, who is so explosive and athletic. That skill set tends to just, go away completely. And he had a decent run at the end at 35. So Jose Aldo, to me, just had a trajectory that's incredibly rare in the sport, where he had a renaissance in his career late and became a contender again at 135. Never got all the way there, but, was certainly a factor at 35 when most fighters, once they're done, they're kind of done. Once again, especially with his skill set. So Jose Aldo, I hope he calls it a career. I hope it's over, because there was a time when a guy like Imam Zahabi wouldn't even be a challenge for Jose Aldo. So the idea that he's still good, but he's never going to be what he was, I'm glad he's hanging it up, and I hope it's permanent. But I picked Zahabi to win. I didn't like the odds on Jose Aldo. So 2-1 heading into our first title fight, Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiero. I picked Valentina Shevchenko. Once again, Fiero was the favorite. I didn't see why against an experienced champ against like Shevchenko, who probably has 1 title defense left in her. The first round really puzzled me. All right, this will be a theme in the 2 title fights, where if you have an advantage, it doesn't mean anything if you don't make it an advantage. Get what I'm saying? If you are the stronger fighter and you don't put yourself in a position to use that strength, you might as well not have that advantage. And the advantage for Fiero is she was fighting an older champion who had been through a lot of wars, who didn't quite have the knockout power and the snap she used to. So make it physical, make it a grind, wear her down, make her question herself, make it a short inside kind of fight. Fiero is bigger than Shevchenko. Make it about all that. Well, in round number 1, it looked like a point sparring competition. It looked like this ticky-tack outside kind of fight where you're looking for the target and ding, 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 ding. Was it long range? Valentina Shevchenko can fight like that for a year, right? She, it was her kind of fight in round number 1. And I went, what is Fiero doing? Fighting an outside fight with a kickboxer like Shevchenko, you're not testing her strength. You're not testing her endurance. You're not testing all those things that kind of like wear down as you get a little bit older. You're not testing her timing, really, because you're fighting at a range she's very, very comfortable with. What are you doing? And she got beat up in that first round. Well, rounds 2 and 3, she went to a style that was grinding, a lot of clinches, a lot of inside striking, where in your mid to late 30s, that kind of grind kind of fight that you can do in your 20s is much harder to do. She started having a lot of success. And, kind of wearing Shevchenko down, and you saw the odds, had the live odds, they really skewed toward Fiero, who once again started out as a favorite anyway, but then like second and third round, you start going, okay, the champ is good at range, but can't really win a grind. Like she can't win the slog that she would have won earlier in her career. Then in round 4, I know Fiero probably wore down a bit. It was a fatiguing kind of style. Once again, they're at range, ticky-tack, outside striking game, and Shevchenko's back in the fight. And then I had it 2-2 going into round number 5. I thought Fiero probably did enough to win round 5. I understand why she didn't, especially fighting a really popular champion. You got to do a little bit more. But it's the idea to me that there were rounds where Fiero seemed to fight an outside fight for really no reason. I understand round 4 you'd be a little bit fatigued, but that was right in Shevchenko's wheelhouse. She can always do that. Spinning kicks, all that stuff. She's great at that. But when she got inside and made it ugly, I thought she clearly won rounds. Now, round 5 is a little bit of exception because there was some clinch, but there was some outside striking. Shevchenko did land some crisp strikes, I understand. I haven't looked at the scorecards themselves, what the judges thought. I obviously know the numbers because they read them, but I haven't looked at the scorecards themselves. But Fiero, you could argue, did enough to win, but Shevchenko gets the decision. I picked Shevchenko. That leaves me 3-1 going into the final title fight of the night. Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. I thought pretty early on that I was wrong. I picked Belal Muhammad. I thought he had enough in him for one title defense. If you listen to my breakdown of the card beforehand, Belal Muhammad is an old champion. He won it late in his career. He goes the distance every single time. That just catches up with you. When you're putting in so many hours in the octagon, it just breaks you down. But I thought he had enough left for one title defense against a guy whose resume of big fights was very, very small. I thought Jack Della Maddalena, a big win was against Gilbert Burns. That's really about it. Hadn't done a whole lot else. That he might be able to catch Jack Della Maddalena a little out of his depth. Well, in round number 1, as I said with the Valentina Shevchenko fight, if you have an advantage, you have to use that advantage, or else you don't have it. What good is it? 2 things in round number 1 made me think, I think I'm wrong here. Number 1 is he wasn't able to make his grappling a factor. Right? Fast forward, the whole fight, it wasn't really a factor. Took him down a couple times in round 5, great. But his grappling wasn't really a factor, and he was setting a pace that didn't take advantage of his second advantage, which is his cardio. Belal Muhammad's a cardio freak. He can just go forever and ever and ever. And I'm looking at the first round going, if you don't turn it up, you are fighting at a pace that Jack Della Maddalena can fight at all day. What difference does it make if you have superior cardio if you're jogging? Okay, well, I can jog too, right? Even if your cardio is not great. You're not making it a sprint. You're not making me run a marathon in 2 hours. So what difference does it make? All right, if we're both jogging, okay, the fact that you can jog faster than me, but if you aren't jogging faster than me, fine. I'm going to go at your pace and we're good. Jack Della Maddalena was able to kickbox at his pace and his range throughout the fight. The Diaz brothers, Colby Covington, guys that are known for their cardio, they put a pace on you from the beginning that is just really hard and very, very taxing. Even if they're not winning necessarily, or they're not winning rounds, it's just like you can win the round and then you're going back to your corner going, ugh, and there are 4 more to go. And there was never that feeling from Jack Della Maddalena that he was being carried too fast. So number 1, it was a striking battle because, Belal Muhammad wasn't able to make his wrestling a factor. And B, it was a medium-paced striking battle where maybe, Belal Muhammad was able to overwhelm him at some point. He was able to make it scrappy and difficult and a grind and a slog, all the stuff from the last fight. And he didn't. So it was a medium-range, awkward kickboxing battle for Belal Muhammad, who has decent kickboxing, but it's not his bread and butter. Jack Della Maddalena, that's his bread and butter. He's a big 170, and he's an excellent kickboxer. And it showed. He beat Belal Muhammad up. And that was the story of the fight. Belal just wasn't able to make his advantages a factor in the fight. He didn't fight that way. He wasn't able to do that. And so I'm watching this fight going, this is a fight at Jack Della Maddalena's range in Jack Della Maddalena style. Boop. That's it. That's the story of the fight. There it is for you. Exciting fight. Very entertaining. Got a bonus for it. And it's funny, the article I read, because I was working Saturday night, so I had to watch this stuff Sunday. Said, well, Belal Muhammad shed the boring fighter label with a really exciting title fight. Great. It sucks to see someone who worked as hard as Belal Muhammad did for as long as Belal Muhammad had to work and not have a title defense and he's out. Because he's not going to get another opportunity. At the age he is, the idea that he strings together a run of 3 or 4 in a really tough division where he's not going to get any softballs. He's not going to get one. So he's only going to get tough fights because, he's not a guy the UFC is going to get behind if they don't absolutely have to. And the idea that with the years and the miles he has on him, he's able to make another run and win the title, 36 years old, I don't see it. So part of me, because I like Belal Muhammad personally and professionally, it sucks to not see him get a title defense. But I didn't see him, if you saw my breakdown, I didn't see him having a long run anyway. This probably would have been the only title fight that I would favor him. Next fight would be, Islam Makhachev, probably. I mean, they weren't going to fight because they were teammates, but Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Machado Gary, by then you're 37, 38, starts really catching up with you. Unfortunately, it caught up with him in his first title defense. So Jack Della Maddalena is your champion at 170. How long can he keep it? We shall see. It looks like probably Islam Makhachev moving up, but I will break that down when it happens. Anyway, appreciate all of you. Subscribe, leave a comment. Talk to you soon.